While our next title doesn't feature quite the same level of goriness as its predecessor, bear with it, things get a little more grisly. In today's humble opinion, we're digging into Rise of the Tomb Raider. Alright, first things first, if you go into Rise of the Tomb Raider expecting the same experience as the original Tomb Raider, you're going to be disappointed. I guess you should have kind of seen that one coming though. The first game featured an intensely intimate psychological shift in Lara Croft from a naive, frightened young girl to a battle-hardened survivor, and that kind of shift simply can't happen more than once. The original also had some pretty clear influences from the survival horror genre, and the atmosphere was tense, and you were consistently thinking, holy shit, I have to get off this island, as your crew slowly succumbs to its trials. This one isn't quite as bad, though it does have its moments. Lara is more competent and less fazed by the unexpected, which makes sense, but you know, as a player, I understand how that change of atmosphere can come off as unwelcome. Now that that's out of the way, let's focus on Rise of the Tomb Raider, shall we? This game sort of comes off as a cross between your modern open-world experience blended seamlessly with your more traditional railway adventure game that takes you episodically from one environment to the next. It takes merits from both genres and uses them to dampen the weaknesses of the other. For instance, the linear progression keeps the action focused and moving forward. It lends itself well to the momentum of the story and in creating those tense claustrophobic action sequences where you feel like the world is falling in around you. Meanwhile, the use of collectibles and fast travel creates a rewarding reason to explore and revisit every map. Usually developers spread this stuff out over massive areas, but Rise of the Tomb Raider condenses them into smaller ones, ensuring that you get to appreciate the map more deeply and giving each location a sense of depth worthy of exploration. That and many of the collectibles offer insights into the lore of the world and is fully narrated. It's both rewarding and extends your playtime in a manner that doesn't seem overly tedious. Rewarding though they may be, they aren't quite enough to sustain the overall weakness of the story. Without the clear direction that was shaping Lara Croft, Rise of the Tomb Raider falls back on a hilariously cookie-cutter adventure game narrative, locating and acquiring a source of immortality before an evil shadow organization with a big brutish Russian figurehead does it for you. I think it's weird that it always has to be the secret to immortality. You could pretty much say that it's an artifact that makes your dick 2 inches bigger, and Lara Croft would be like, we have to find it before them. If it falls into the wrong hands, the results could be devastating. You might be thinking, Lara Croft doesn't even have a dick, to which I would reply, it takes a massive set of balls to go hop, skipping, and jumping up a massive goddamn mountainside untethered after experiencing a massive concussion. Plus it's 2017, you don't know what she's got in her pants. The writers even do that thing where the shadow organization follows Lara to the secret and then proceeds to be ahead of her at every turn. Talk about cliche. I didn't agree with the sentiment too much with the first game, but this time around she really does just feel like a female Nathan Drake. That's how you know she's got a dick. Without going into too much detail, the plot also suffers from a slew of very predictable twists that just don't work out very well if you're paying attention and capable of critical thinking. Not only that, but the characterization is a bit all over the place. One second Laura's going on and on about how she wants to save this prisoner and find out what he knows, and the next she's like, fuck you, the reason my name's spelled L-A-R-A despite being pronounced Laura is because I'm a strong, independent woman that doesn't need you. She also discovers that she can't trust anyone, not even herself. Call this shit Tomb Raider because there's two of them. Tomb Raider isn't really all that fitting anyway because they don't have that many tombs to raid. But enough talking about the game's weaknesses, let's focus on some strengths. The combat system was mostly well done. There were parts where the AI will become alerted but stand in place and stare off into space, but when it's working fully, there's a lot going for it. Well-designed levels offer plenty of strategic cover for you to respond to threats, and a robust stealth system helps you snake your way around the battlefield unseen as you pick off unwary enemies. Or so I assume. I don't use stealth all that much because it usually doesn't work out for me. I kill one person and they say check the bushes while I sit perfectly still and think, oh no, I'm in the bushes. Needless to say, my survival instinct isn't all that great. The best addition was the improvisational crafting that allowed you to make ammunition, healing, and weapons on the fly, making strategic choices that much more available. The puzzles, when they're actually around, are actually pretty fun to play through, though some of them rely far too heavily on these fucking put an explosive on the raft bullshit mechanics. I'd have liked to see more of the challenges, and possibly even larger, more involved tombs, but they're pretty solid and conceptually interesting. Overall though, there's just really not that much to be said. Normally you can find Rise of the Tomb Raider on the Steam store. Actually, you can't find it on the Steam store. You can only find the 20-year celebration edition with all the DLC for $59.99. And yet, we just got the base game? I feel like I've been subtly marketed to, Humble Bundle. I don't like that. Hard to report prices when that's the game you're playing. We'll just subtract the $30 season pass and say that's the base game, so $29.99. And it says the lowest historical price is about 75% off, which would be about $7.50 at its lower sale price for the base game alone. Fuck you for making me do math. Personally, I'd say $30 feels like an excellent asking point, though of course anything cheaper is more than welcome. It's very fair for the amount of content included. I can't speak for the 20-year celebration edition though. I have not played that. I don't know what any of the DLC is, so I'm sorry. At the end of the day, Rise of the Tomb Raider, although not as gripping or as captivating as the 2013 reboot that came before it, is an incredibly pleasing experience. As you traverse absolutely breathtaking environments, uncovering rewarding treasures, and struggling to survive in its harsh environment, you find yourself being swept up in everything. Though the story is a bit predictable, it's not all that bad or disappointing per se, and aside from a few minor gripes about the logistics of reading more Greek to understand how to read Greek in the first place, or how sometimes Laura doesn't jump exactly where you want her to, it's a wellspring of thrilling entertainment. For those reasons, Rise of the Tomb Raider earns a solid 8 out of 10. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Crystal Dynamics for giving this series a much-deserved reboot and taking it in the direction that you have. Though I wish you'd find a way to refresh the cookie-cutter adventure narrative in the same way you did Tomb Raider as a whole, it's still absolutely wonderful and I'm glad to have played it. Remember that failure is not the worst case scenario, so go on with your bad selves and stay awesome, everyone.